Well, hello there, Masbodis way to welcome to this week's edition of Yilungelo Lakho. It's your right. We're coming to you live right here on SABC 1 in Mzansi for sure from our Auckland Park studios. Well, you also remember that that is 011 714 6918 and 6919. You can also send us your emails by your views by email rather. The email address is consumer@sabc.co.za. Or alternatively, just go and catch us on social media. My Twitter handle is @speechnzawumbi, as you'll see it on the screen. And of course, go and check our Facebook page, that is Yilungelo Lakho, and comment on our update today. Good afternoon to you. Now, consumers will soon find it difficult to secure credit. This is because new legislation will now be forcing credit providers to do a thorough affordability assessment before granting credit. But the good thing about this is that consumers are now going with this new assessment criteria will save them from the burden of extra credit on top of debts that they're already struggling to repay. But first, let's have a look at this insert.
Babalelwa ngentulu kwa 23 million bantu labathathe impahla ngesikweleti lapha eNingizimu Afrika. Half wabo bayehluleka kumelana nalesikweleti. Ngelishwa ke kwasekuqaleni nje kwakumele bangakweletiswa ngoba bangeke bakwadi kumelana naleso sikweleti.
All these are zeros. Transport, which is the main thing, there's nothing he's paying. Utilities, only 150. Other expenses, he really doesn't do any other thing. The main thing in his life on what he spends is just grocery as well as water and electricity.
Lesisibonelo lesitayelekile lapho i-credit provider ingendanga khona kahle licwaningo ngephambi kwekuniketa umthengi isikweleti. Lo mthengi uhola imali lecishe ifike ku-2,800 wemarandi. Ngesikhathi applyela i-loan wathi ngenyanga usebenzisa 780 wemarandi. 600 ekudleni, 30 ku-airtime na 150 kubhadalela masipala. Wase uniketwa i-loan ya 20,000 wemarandi. Siyabonga Makhathini usebenzela i-credit ombud. Uthi timo letfana naleti tejwayelekile.
Lo muntu uyasho ukuthi wenze i-application yemoto and ngaleso sikhathi eyowenza i-application wayiqeda ukubonasa plus bemuphe namanye imali zama housing allowance kanjalo. So ke i-total net income yakhe yagijima ko 23,000 rand. Kodwa ngokomthetho lo muntu ebehola 10,000 rand ngenyanga. So ke kusho ukuthi udealer la yo apply khona imoto wenzeni uthathe le payslip le yaleyo nyanga le why process i-application kuma bank labuya ibank elinye la approve i-application wayithola imoto even elisha wa driver kodwa lo muntu ebehola 10,000 rand. So ke uthe inyanga mayiqala isiza kusekumele kuphume i-installment yokuqala akasakwazi lo muntu.
Eric Mthembu wake waba nenkinga nesikweleti se-loan lebekayithethe.
Banginike loan.
Kamalini?
It was 8,000. So banginikeze loan, and when it came time ukuthi fanele ngikhokhe ke manje ila waqala khona inkinga because ngakhokha ama installments ka 1,000 over 12 months. So already lapho sengiqilo 8,000 ngobolekile. But then still after konke lokho khokha kwami still ngafaka ku credit bureau.
Wase uya ku credit ombud ayofuna lusido.
Upon speaking to a credit ombudsman, yabona izinto zacaca, everything was clear. It's okay, no, listen, usukhokhile wena kahle kahle. You are not in debt, akumelanga ngabe ku credit bureau. So kahle kahle labantu laba kumele they must stop ukuthatha imali kuwena.
Eric wagcina esuliwe ku credit bureau. Lo mthetho lomusha wekucwaninga utawuvimbela kwekuthi bathengi bangwafaka kuma-credit bureau ngoba labo labangeke bakwadi kumelana nesikweletu batawubanjwa nje basa-aplya. Esikhathini lesengcile bekulula kwekuthi bathengi bacambe emanga ngekuthi basebenzisa malini ngenyanga.
Udla malini, grocery, uhamba i-transport ngenyanga, entertainment, into efana nalezo. Bekune loophole kakhulu lapho ngoba bebekuthatha konke okushiwo i-consumer. Ngingasho nje ngithi hayi ngiyawuspend 100 rand ngenyanga bayithatha injalo. I-transport hayi angigibeli ngiyawalka ukuya emsebenzini bayithatha injalo.
Kepha nyalo konke lokho sekushintshile.
Likhona-ke iformula ngokomthetho omusha lifakiwe licubungisisiwe ukuthi umuntu njengokuthi nje manginga-aplya mhlawumbe ngihola 4,000 lapha yakuma expenses noma la bekulula khona ukuthi siqamba u-credit provider i-system yakhe kumele iseyisethiwe ngokuhambisana nale new affordability assessment ukuthi badeducte a minimum of 1,016 rand. Umuntu ohola 15,000 for instance mangiyo-aplya lapha kwi-minimum expense norm kunemali u-1,955 rand 38 cent akumele bayiconsidere.
I-credit ombud isita mahala kulokulandzelako. Kubhadaliswa kwebathengi imali leyecile yentsela, kubolekwa budedengu kwebathengi, kukhwabanisa, kufakwa kwemthengi ku-credit bureau ngalokungekho emthethweni.
Consumers can use our website to make an application for an assistance. Our website is www.creditombud.org.za. You can get into our website and then you go just grab in the main screen. You just go down there to complaint form. While you open on application pops up, you fill up the application form. Another way is to phone us on 0861 662 837, or if you can't phone us, we can phone you. If you can SMS us a word help or please call me to a number 44786.
Ngubani lo watiko mhlawumbe njenga Eric nawe ungethulwa umthwalo. Zinhle Dlamini, Yilungelo Lakho.
All right, masibambe kasibini-ke kumadlamini ngelonqanqwa kwasenzelwe lona. Now ungena emxholweni masamkele our guest today. We're pleased to be joined by Louisa Hetisane from the National Credit Regulator. We also welcome Nikki Lalamohan, who is from the South Africa's Credit Ombudsman. Guys, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to Yilungelo Lakho.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks for
I was
having us.
I was just saying to you, Nikki, that you were my very first guest when I started in Yilungelo Lakho almost 2 years ago. So it's good to have you with us again. Welcome again. Also, it's good to have you in studio and you hopefully be part of this family.
Thanks for inviting me.
Now, we're talking about credit. We know that we've had a lot of issues as far as credit is concerned. Last year, we had the credit amnesty. We had a lot of issues. We had terms in the credit amnesty. And this year, we're being told about amendments that are made into before one is approved for credit. Let's start with you, Louisa. Why did you feel, or rather see a need to introduce this?
Look, since 2006, when the Act was passed, and 2007, certain provisions came into effect, what you found is that typically when you implement a piece of legislation, you will see loopholes, you will see unintended consequences. So when you look at the original legislation, it is written in such a way that it assumes that a prudent lender will do proper assessments.
Okay.
But what we found in practice is there was a need to be more prescriptive, if I can put it like that way. And in fact, what led to this particular piece of amendment, these affordability assessment regulations, was, you'll remember that boom around 2009, 10, 11, when we had the whole, debate around unsecured.
Yes.
The NCR commissioned a study, and from there we found that there is a need to give guidance to the sector on how should proper assessments be done.
Also interesting when you look at it, Nikki, that apparently our psychology as consumers, when we relate to credit, doesn't seem to change. Despite how indebted we are, research shows that South Africans are the most indebted, one of the most indebted citizens in the world. As the Ombudsman, when it comes to these changes, especially now that the amendments that Louise just told us about, we saw Siyabonga saying that some people lie about how much they get monthly and how many deductions, or rather how much is deducted from their income. How do you think this will change, or rather affect the lives of consumers?
I think it will change a lot. But you mentioned the psychology of consumers. Unfortunately, in South Africa, we a consumption-based society.
Yeah.
We just want to consume. But not only consume, we also want to keep up with the Joneses, especially the youngsters. If my friend's got a sneaker, I also want that sneaker. If my friend's driving a fancy car, I also want that fancy car. And that's what leads us into a consumption-based society. We just consume. You're correct in that we're the most over-indebted in the world. In fact, we borrow the most in the whole world.
Yeah.
Below us is Turkey and other countries. Research has shown we borrow the most in the world.
Yeah.
But we need to change that psychology by education.
Okay.
You've got to educate people. And I think the education drive is now coming through. It is one of our mandates. It is one of the key things that we try and do in the office. Because when you educate people, the outcome thereof is much better. And we've done this. We've done an exercise where we had some donor funding, and we call this Imali Matters.
Okay.
Where over a year we tracked people's behavior as to how they changed their behavior when it comes to credit.
All right.
We were fortunate in that we had some money, and we had an office in Durban, we had an office in Cape
So what
Town.
did you gather from that information and that research?
That people's behavior changed. Their credit scores increased, they became more aware of their budgetary requirements, they wanted their profile to be changed, and over a year we found that it changed. The important thing about that education, it was one-on-one. You sit like me and you sitting.
Okay.
And we monitored that throughout the period.
And the reception, how have people been receiving this information, especially the amendments, special retail shops, as far as giving out?
Well, I think firstly, the credit grantors weren't ready.
Okay.
They applied for an extension, so it came on the 14th of September.
All right.
Most of them are still busy updating their systems to build in this affordability.
Okay.
But it's going to change the landscape.
It's going to change the
Most
landscape.
definitely.
All right. Louise, in the past we had students, people who, according, one would say, perhaps for lack of a better word, according to your criteria, don't qualify to accumulate debt. With students, we had people who are unemployed, or perhaps one who has been retrenched, but they would still be given credit cards, they would still be given access to credit. How is this going to change such laws, or rather amendments, or these amendments, those clauses?
So in the past, typically lenders would focus more on your probability to default on a credit agreement, as opposed to your affordability, your ability to afford.
What do you mean by that? Probability to default and ability to...
So basically, they'll use their scorecard that says the probability of Louisa defaulting on this new loan is, let's say, 10%, and therefore, we can grant her the credit. How I actually repay the loan, how I struggle, how I copy and paste, as we call it, I borrow from Peter to pay Paul, that they don't take into consideration. So these new regulations are saying, look at the actual rent amount that I have to be able to repay this loan. So going back to students, I mean, why should you grant credit to a person that has no income? The regulations themselves, they do accommodate people, for example, that are informally employed, to say you can use other means to verify their income. But I mean, any prudent lender, you should only be lending to a person that's got the income to be able to repay you.
The reality of the factor, though, is that people go, well, they resort to machonisas, the sharks, some have their ID documents confiscated and so forth, because what they get, or rather their income, isn't equivalent to the amount of spending that is required from or rather expenditure at the end of the month.
And I think it ties in very nicely with what the Ombud has said. To say, as people, we need to be living within our means. If clearly I need to take on a Mashonesa loan to be able to survive for the month, a solution is not for me to take on additional debt. The solution is for me to look at my budget, to cut other expenses so that I can go back into a positive position.
Nikki, it seems like people get excited when they are approved for certain credit. You go to a retail store, you are told that you can afford a credit of 20,000 rands. It doesn't register at the moment that that is money you don't have. That will be required from you with interest. Do you think that perhaps consumers are taking refuge of these things as we go along and as we become the most indebted country in the world?
Yeah, they say the best form of therapy is retail therapy, which is shopping.
Yeah, of course. I love shopping.
If you're not in a good mood, go shop and you'll see your mood lifts.
Yes.
But yeah, I think, look, we're going into Christmas season now. Generally, there is a lot of shopping that goes on, and sometimes necessary shopping or whatever.
Yeah.
And my advice would be that for people that are doing their Christmas shopping, do it in terms of a budget. Draw up a budget to say, this is the amount of money I'd like to spend on gifts. This is the amount of money I'm going to spend on the Christmas lunch and Christmas dinner, and stick to it. One of the big problems that we have as well, Speech, is the issue of alcohol consumption.
Yeah.
The amount of money that people spend on alcohol, you know, is actually frightening. People get paid on the Friday, Monday, they drank all their money away. And those things need to change. We need to change the way we look at credit. Credit is very important because it is the blood of the economy.
The blood of the economy.
Without credit, the economy won't grow. So you need to balance the two of them. But it's important that it should be fair
we need
credit.
to change our behavior.
That's correct.
All right, well, let's hold it right there for now. You're still watching Yilungelo Lakho right here on SABC 1 Zanzibar for sure. I'm joined in studio by Louisa Hetisani from National Credit Regulator and Nikki Lala Mohan from the South Africa's Credit Ombudsman. Today, we're telling you in Dogwana there are new amendments that are being made now in how you're going to be approved for credit. Join us after the break. We'll give you more information with this. All right, let's welcome you again. You're still watching Yilungelo Lakho right here on SABC 1. Well, today we're talking about debt. We're talking about credit. Into ke ngokwentsha echoyo into kubana xa wena uzohamba uapply lapha ku retail store or any other shop ufuna ukuba approve for a credit, kunento ezininzi ezawujongwa than it was done before. Now, before the break, guys, Nikki, you alluded to the fact that we need to change our behavior as far as our relationship with debt is concerned. Just continue to tell us more about that.
Yeah, I think in terms of changing behavior is, well, look, the world economy at the moment is somewhat depressed. So, you know, there are a lot of factors that affect things, and we need to be cognizant of that and go along with that. If you look at the situation that we find ourselves in, we could face drought, which means that food prices would go up.
Yeah.
You know, the way the rand-dollar exchange is going, that is putting pressure on people. You probably will have an interest rate increase. You've got to take all of those things into account and work with that. You can't be isolated in terms of the economy. You've got to work with the economy and what's going on. And, you know, the best advice is prudence with spending and be somewhat frugal, you know. Don't buy things that you don't need. Stick to things that you need and do the necessities.
All right. As I go, Sis Louise, ngaphambilini, we knew that there would be certain things in terms of how the assessment is conducted before approval for credit. How is it going to be different now, just from step to step? What are the main issues and mhlawumbe ukuthi intela ekhaya renting bhadala malini nokudla and so forth?
Okay, so there are a few changes. So the first thing is, and the most important one, is the issue of AMA expenses. What we've been seeing in the past is that, for example, consumer, I'll go in and the application form, and then when they say how much do you spend for food, I'll just say 30 rands. We've actually seen an application form like that.
Yeah.
You know, you don't eat, you don't sleep anywhere, you don't have any other expenses, and you are reducing your expenses simply because you qualify for this loan. So what is going to change is that there's a new table, a tax table that is called a minimum living expense norms table. So the credit provider is supposed to classify according to my gross income, how much then could I spend as living expenses for the month. And these typically include things like food, transport, accommodation, education, health, and entertainment. So all those things must be taken into consideration when an assessment is done. The second thing is that a bureau report must be used. Now, what is then new is that it must be a fresh bureau report. What I mean is that it means when I go in and apply for credit, the law now says the credit report must not be older than 7 days for all credit agreements, and it must not be older than 14 days for mortgage. Now you'll ask yourself, Guti, why then are we putting this in place? It's because we found that other lenders, they'll do a bureau query 5 months ago, and then I get this letter in the post, and then they say you are pre-qualified. I go in, I fill in an application. They don't go and check again,
check.
ukuthi do I have
Yeah.
new obligations? So
Okay.
we're saying use a fresh bureau report. And most importantly, we are saying, look at a person's disposable income. Ungabheki nje my gross income, before taxes, before expenses, this is how much I earn. Look at what is left in my pocket after I've paid for expenses and other debt obligations. The Ombudsman spoke about being prudent. It is important to both the lender and the consumer, there must be a buffer, although it's not specifically stated in the regulations, but it is prudent. For example, ukuthi uzishiyele wena mhlambe 100 rand nyana, so that so that if petrol ikhuphuka,
you have
something.
And abantu abaningi, they end up going komashonisa because they are not approved by your biggest credit lenders. But is this criteria or procedure going to be followed ngabo mashonisa?
Look, our mashonisa are basically
let's say those who are registered, maybe loan sharks. Let's not mashonisa because they break a leg sometimes. But let's talk about those registered credit providers who are not as big as others. And I mean, around this time they are rooting for sales. They want to have more people on their side. But how are you going to make sure you keep them accountable?
Okay, so when it comes to credit providers, so whether you are currently registered or you are meant to be registered, the regulations apply to you.
Okay.
So because in the past, there was no requirement for them to register because their businesses were small.
Yes.
So now we've amended the act to say everybody who's in the business of lending money must be registered, which means now if a credit provider has a loan but they are not registered, it's illegal and therefore they are not covered. So those guys then are operating illegally. But as NCR, we have gone out and we are doing countrywide workshops where we are educating particularly the smaller lenders in terms of their obligations in terms of the act. And we are also raiding towns. So basically it means we will go in partnership with the police sometimes, because typically what we find is that lenders that are operating illegally, then they tend to retain cards and pins and IDs, and that is illegal. Then in those instances you find you are contravening the act, and also then criminal charges can be lodged against you.
Nikki, let's talk about the credit that I accumulated 5 or 6 years ago. Perhaps I went to a retail shop or retail store. I defaulted, let's say 1 month, with 1 month installment, 120 rands, forgot the account, no longer use the account. What's going to happen with that credit, rather that profile? Because a lot of people with the amnesty were saying that at a certain point it was not applicable to them. Is this perhaps also going to be put within bounds of time and so forth?
Yes, certainly. The new regulations that came into effect make specific provision for retention periods for data. Now, maybe what we should do is try and explain this quite simply to people. And the way a credit bureau report works, if you pay regularly the installment that you're supposed to pay, it will reflect as a 0 on your credit report.
All right.
If you miss one payment, it will reflect as a 1, meaning that you missed the 1. If you miss 2 payments, it will reflect 2. And as we go on, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
Now, the important thing is that that's called a payment profile. Now, you talk about the amnesty last year. It's more the removal of adverse consumer information. So what that did was that it took away certain categories of information that were on the bureau. And the reason for that is that they felt that people were prejudiced by having that information on the bureau, particularly in regard to employment. People weren't getting work because they were on the bureau. Now, the law has changed that you cannot take a bureau record into account unless you're applying for a job which requires you to deal with finances,
maybe at the bank,
or etc.
Okay.
You can't apply to be a petrol service attendant and require a good report. So that has changed. But what people forgot was that what didn't go away was their payment profile. Their numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Well, let's hear what our callers have to say. Remember that the number to dial is 011 714 6918 and 6919. We're taking your calls live. And now it seems like we've got Dumisani who's calling us on the show. Dumisani, welcome to Yilungelo Lakho. Dumisani?
Yebo njani mfethu?
Sikhona khona kunjani baba?
Ngikhona. Yebo mfethu. Yazi inkinga la ikhona ne. uma ngabe kuza uya e-shopping uyovula amakhadi or maybe uthenga ifensi ethile. Into ayenzayo laphana ne ukuthi abanikazi bamakhampani bathatha laba bantu abangabasebenzi babo ukuthi wena if uthola abantu abangaka ngenyanga maybe sizokunikeza imali engaka. Sasebenzisa ukuthi yena no i-customer lethu ihola kangaka ama-benefit ayahamba kanjani. Basebenzisa nje ukuthi hayi no sinokuthi ngithola ukuthi ngithole labantu labo ngizothola leya mali. Enganaki izinto eziningi zomuntu ukuthi zihamba kanjani. That is why abantu abaningi basithola bengasakhona ukuthi babhadale i-installments zabo.
Okay, Dumisani, siyabonga kakhulu baba, siyabonga ngalo mbiko. That's Dumisani who was giving us his contribution on our topic today, that people take a lot of debt and then they end up not being able to pay for it. What do you think? Let us know. Today we're joined in studio by Louise and Nikki Lala Mohen, rather. The number to dial is 011-714-6918 and 6919. You can also go and tell us on Facebook what you think. I'll be taking those messages as we come back from the ad break. But right now, perhaps let's quickly go and drink some water. We'll be back shortly. Stay with us. All right, welcome back. You're still watching Yilungelo Lakho right here on SABC 1. Answer for sure now. Our team went out on the streets just to hear what people have to say about our topic today. And this is exactly what happened and what they had to say.
To have a negative impact on us who are earning little, because the moment they become too strict on us, and I don't think we will be able to acquire credit.
It would make consumers more wary about the loans that they are taking out and the living expenses that they have. It would make it easier for them to live within their means and also harder for them to get unnecessary credit that they don't really have or can't really afford.
More than a decade, that means I won't get any loan from anywhere. So with your spana, with a span, you know what I'm saying, my sister, in Jalo.
Remember that you can call us. It's 011-714-6918 and 6919. And I said that you can also send me messages on Facebook. I'm just waiting for those messages to come and reflect right here on the screen. Oh, there they are. We've got Kutalo, stand-up, who says, ndiyayixhasa le nto and ndinqwenela ukuba abantu bafundiswe nge-interest because it seems to cause confusion to some consumers and those who provide credit overcharge them. We've got Sisa Sole provider Ludlolo says siyasebenzisa kona i-credit card kodwa inobungozi ngoba sometimes siye singakwazi ukuyibhadala back. Sinosipesihle Oscar Quphuna says speech wanceda ubekho lo mthetho kuba thina luntu sizifaka ematyaleni esingakwazi kuwabhadala. Albert Tobachale says majority of people will suffer from this amendment as they are underpaid and will never afford basic needs through credits. They should have concentrated on those losing their job through negligence without being covered by insurances because their areas are increasing every month instead of being put on hold. Nikki, what do you have to say, especially about what Albert says? What's your comment on what Albert says, that the more you don't pay, the more your areas increase and whatnot? I think it goes back to the scoreboard you spoke about building your profile.
Yeah, no, undoubtedly. He's actually correct in saying that people will, well, maybe not the word suffer is maybe not the correct word to use. Eventually it will lead to suffering. But what's going to happen right now is you're going to find that you're not going to get credit very easily. You've got to go through those qualification criteria. And before, all you needed to do was just pitch up with an ID book. Now you need an ID book, you need 3 months salary slips, or show proof of income that has been deposited into your bank account. Obviously, if you're applying for bank loan or whatever, you need the normal FICA documentation. Documentation now is going to be the most important thing. And because that's the way to verify. And where the NCR, if they're going to do an investigation, they're going to ask for documentation. Similarly, in our office, when we get a complaint, we ask for the documentation. And we get all the important documentation which we need to deal with this case. So it's going to be documentation. So I think he's correct in the sense that it's going to be difficult to get credit, but you know, to a certain extent, maybe a good thing.
But you know what, Louisa, a lot of people can say, why are you giving us these amendments? It's my credit, it's my profile, it's my money. Why are you stopping me from having debt? Because I need this money.
Look, I think as the Ombud said earlier, credit is the lifeline or the lifeblood of the economy. And it is not a bad thing. Isikoloto is not a bad thing. Athi into embi. What is okubalekile ukuthi usisebenzisa kanjani lesikoloto? You know, what are you taking the credit for? For example, if tomorrow I'm attending, you know, so and so's wedding and I feel the need to then go out and outfit at 10,000 on credit. Now, am I using that credit wisely? What we are calling for is responsible credit use and responsible credit granting, because remember, for example, retailers are employing abantu, so they are contributing to the economy in a positive way. And then when you then take isikoloto and you can't pay, it affects the lender, and then perhaps the lender has to repay, has then to retrench their employees and things like that. So my actions as an individual consumer, it's got an impact on the economy, and therefore there's a need to protect both the consumer and the lender. If I can just go back to Ipoinka Albert around insurance. Now the amendments also say, for example, that in the pre-agreement and statement and quotation exostola, insurance must be shown in there. Because what we've seen is that there's a lot of abuse around insurance. For example, a pensioner will go in, avule account, and then you find bamthengisela insurance, you know, retrenchment cover. Now, how can a pensioner then pay for retrenchment cover? So those are some of the things that are now in the new regulations that are meant to be protected as consumers.
And Nikki, how are you going to ensure that this information is communicated effectively to the consumer, that there is no broken telephone? Perhaps other people can think that you are now saying that there is no more going to be credit anymore. But just to ensure that this information is received well in communities and it is practiced.
I think we need to go on a full communication drive. We're trying to do our best in the office with press articles. The NCR this time of the year has campaigns. I'm aware of the Banking Association, National Clothing Retail Federation have come out with some consumer education together with Bank Sita. So it's consumer education. But you know, when are you best educated? It's called the moment of truth. When you go and apply for credit and you decline,
they say no.
You educated.
Trust me, it doesn't feel good.
You'll be educated because you know you're not going to get it, and you'll tell your friends. So the education it's called that moment of truth. You know, when you want something, you're only interested in it at that time. Other than that, it doesn't matter. So the moment of truth will come when you'll get educated.
So you will communicate these messages throughout the year?
Yes.
Throughout the year. Because what happens is that we come with this information and this credit education around about this time, and we know the psyche of people around this time. People are excited, they want to buy stuff, they want to buy cars, some are getting employed for the first time, they're going to get bonuses and so forth. Let's talk about balloon payments, because it seems like there is a slacking misunderstanding when it comes to what balloon payments are. You're going to buy a car, you're also told that you will pay in March or in April. You don't have to pay for December, January, and February.
Okay, balloon payments happen more when you purchase a large item like a motor vehicle. And let's take a practical example. You want to buy a car that's worth, say, 100,000 Rand. You normally finance it over a period of 4 or 5 years, and they tell you that if you take this car for 100,000, your installment for the period, say, over 4 years, will be 1,999. 2,000. However, if you take this deal on a balloon payment, we can reduce your installment from 2,000 to 1,300 Rand. So I'm a young student, I just started a new job. 700 Rand is good for me because it's petrol for the car. So I take the vehicle on the basis of a balloon payment. But what I am in for at the end of that period is a big balloon payment that I've got to make. So whereas the car cost 100,000, after a period of 4 years, I may be liable to pay 40,000 immediately upon that 4-year period ending. Now, what people normally do is they say, okay, but this car's got value, so I'll trade it in.
And take a new one.
And I'll take a new one. What normally happens is that the value of that car at the end of that 4 or 5 years is less than that 40,000. So you may get 23,000 for the trade-in for the car. You're out of pocket with 17,000 that you have to pay. Now, that's what happens. So people must understand it deals with affordability. Yes, you get a reduced installment.
But is this communicated with me as a consumer when I go over the counter?
The problem, no, it's not.
It's not.
It's not. And you know, in the sense that you sign or whatever, but people really don't understand the concept that I'm going to enjoy this for 4 years. But at the end of that 4th year, there's going to be a big, that's why it's called a balloon payment to make. And I've got to make that
And
payment.
it will eventually bust.
Unless, or the alternative one where the normal credit agreement, you take it for a period of 5 years. At the end of 5 years, you paid it up. It's your vehicle. You take ownership of the vehicle and you can do what you want to do with it. The issue of take now, pay 3 months later. It's not 3 months
it's very
later.
common
You're
around this
paying for
time.
that months that you're not paying in the form of an interest. They build in interest
they
at
adjust
the
your
end. They
interest.
adjust your interest so that they can make you okay for 3 months no payment. But you're paying for that at the end of the whole term. You're paying it in a different form. It's a bait to get you in. Please take my credit. Don't worry. 3 months, you don't pay. But at the end of it, you're paying more than what you would have paid ordinarily. It's built into the price. It's a pricing mechanism.
Wow, Louise?
And if I can come in, you see that's where the pre-agreement statement and quotation and the need to shop around come in. So typically in South Africa, we are very installment driven. I go in, I want it now. The Act says I can get the pre-agreement statement and quotation. I have 5 days to sit at home, relax
Think
over a
about
cup of
it.
tea and say, do I really want a balloon payment of 40%? And then, consider other cars, shop around for better interest rates. But as South Africans, we tend not to do that. We tend not to do that. And additionally, the lender has an obligation to also educate. In as much as there's a need to educate by, the NCR, the Ombud and our other partners, there's also an obligation built into the regulations that says the lender must ensure that you understand your risks and obligations. They must thoroughly explain the terms and conditions. That's why in the new regulations...
Yilungelo Lakho ukuthi ndicacisele, I don't understand this clause. What does it mean?
Into nje abalulekile ukuthi now there's something called a multiplier, because we've realized ukuthi abantu mhlambe they don't understand interest rate. So basically kumele bakuphe a ratio that says if ngithatha 100 rand ngizoyikhokha kuyi 200, the ratio is I'm paying 2:1.
Okay.
And if I'm going to pay 3 times, 3:1, hoping, Guti, it will sensitize me as a consumer when I see it. Guti, I'm paying 4 times the amount, let me take a step back.
Maske sibamba pho. Ayike masibele pha evenkileni ke namhlanje sithetha ngemiba yamatyala kuthi awuzukwazi ukulifumana ityala ngendlela elula njengoba ukwazi ukwenza ngaphambili phaya. Ucinga ntoni namhlanje ucinga lento izayitshintsha behavior yethu as consumers? Let me know. I'm taking your calls. The number is 011-714-6918 and of course 6919. We're coming back shortly. All right, welcome back. Sinamkela kwakhona ke babukeli. Nibukela Yilungelo Lakho inkqubeni nithanda kakhulu apha SABC1. I said I'm taking your calls before the break. Now it's time for me to take those calls. I've got Esther who's calling me from Spruitview. Yes, Spruitview. Esther, masikwamkela inkqubeni sisi.
Yebo, engicela ukubuza ukuthi ubhuti wami ungene esikolodweni se-29,000 ne? Isikolodo angene kuso se-29,000 unkosikazi wakhe wabhalisa umntwana angazi ukuthi kule sikolo abhalise kuso umntwana kuyabhadala, ubhuti wami kade angazi. So umntwana this year wenza grade 7 fanele aphume esikolweni. Bathumela incwadi yokuthi angeke akhone ukuthola amaphepha esikolo ngoba ukoloda 29,000 and ubhuti wami akasebenzi. Umuntu onokubamba amatoho emateksini adrive kwesinye isikhathi uhleli la ekhaya akasebenzi.
So ufuna uqonda ukuthi angenzani?
Manje ukuthi singayenza njani thina leyo ndaba yalesi sikolo desingaki 29,000 umntana sese-primary school.
All right. Okay, Sister Esther, I think Sister Louisa will try to just... Sister Louisa, ngafuna ukukhuluma naye ngosocingweni.
No, it's fine. I get the gist.
You got the gist.
Yeah.
Okay, what can she do? What can Esther do?
Okay, so school fees, it's typically it's not credit because it's a service.
Okay.
So in the interest yakhona ihlukile. So unfortunately that one is outside the scope of a normal credit agreement.
Okay.
But then in terms of the new amendment, what is supposed to happen is the ability of the parent to be able to repay his school fees should be taken into consideration when they take on iskolet, but not when they take the kid to school. So that is completely, unfortunately, a different matter. Where the act comes in is in terms of the interest that they can be charged. It's only 2% payment, you know, per month. Perhaps what they could do is to try and make an arrangement in a school or to say we can repay ngesikhathi esingaka.
So abanokwazi nokuya ku-ombudsman ukuthi bathole usizo because it's a different issue, you said it's a service.
No, maybe
can they come to you?
If I can just come in there in regard to what Louisa was saying, is what that is called incidental credit.
Okay.
And that happens when you go to a doctor. The medical aid doesn't pay the remaining full amount.
Yes.
There's a small amount outstanding. It becomes incidental credit. You get a letter of demand. And the thing about incidental credit is that, unfortunately, they can't be charged for reckless lending because it was out of their control.
Yeah.
So it's typically called incidental credit. We do get that incidental credit cases mostly with regard to cell phones, telecommunications, etc., where, you know, you're on a contract and there's this balance outstanding, etc.
Yes.
We do deal with instances of incidental.
Yeah, especially in instances where you find that the service provider never communicated, or rather, they didn't tell you that you have reached your limit. You end up with a huge debt of over 1,000 and so forth. So you also deal with those issues.
We do deal with that.
Okay, let's talk now about our credit providers who refuse to comply. We know people always try to dodge the system. So same will apply with Lama amendments in Wenzayo. Also kwenzakala ngilabo bantu.
Okay. So into yokuqala esiyenzayo ukuthi we are starting off by educating our credit providers. So we are going around the country and sensitizing them in terms of what do these new regulations require of them.
Okay.
But seeing NCR, we take a very serious view towards reckless lending and the issues that involve affordability assessment, these new regulations. In a nutshell, where we find lenders contravening, we will then refer matters to the tribunal. Now, the tribunal has the same status of a court, and then in some cases, we will ask for a fine. We can ask for an administrative fine up to 10% of your turnover. Where we find there's gross misconduct on the part of the credit provider, we can ask for your deregistration. You know, we can ask the tribunal to say this guy must just be excluded from the market because, you know, you are not playing by the spirit of the act.
But because kukhona labanje, you know, they're not registered. We find them somewhere in the black market, you know, and people do go there because they know it's easy for them to access credit.
Those ones typically sends AMA rates, so we will then hit a town. You know, we will go out beforehand, we will scout, we will get information to say, okay, they are at pension payouts. And those ones, those are the ones saying, typically they tend to retain cards and pins. And ngicela message to consumers to say, don't go to those guys because they overcharge. You find they say, my interest is 50% per month. I don't even care ukuthi uyithathele mali for 2 days, 3 days, 30 days, I'm charging 50%. And also, of course, there's the personal risk to your life because there are collection methods here.
Yeah, but
there's also a factual account to this.
Yeah.
In the sense that the NCR did a study in Marikana.
Okay.
There were 14 credit grantors, 11 were illegal, not registered with the National Credit Regulator.
And people went there.
But that's it, you know, they go there out of desperation. Can you imagine 14, 11 not registered? That was in the NCR survey.
Yeah.
I think another thing that's interesting is what is it that people lend or borrow money for? You know, what is it that people borrow money for? Is it your health services, as you said, emergency services, emergency debt? Or is it a lifestyle issue that perhaps we struggle to manage our lifestyle?
Research is showing that we're borrowing for food and basic stuff, not extravagance or whatever, but just to keep food on the table. That's what we do. We're borrowing.
And also because the loan comes easy, I think that's another thing.
Yes.
So, okay, now let's get into counseling. There's probably somebody who's watching and they're thinking, I'm so indebted, I can't even, I'm even embarrassed to come out about it. How do you ensure, let's start with you perhaps as the Bureau, that how do you ensure that you bring those people closer and you help them to get their dignity back? Because what credit or debt does, it rips your debt, your dignity off. How do you ensure you perhaps have counseling, sessions or whatever?
There are a couple of options, okay? The first and the best one is approach your credit provider when you are in difficulty. They don't want to lose you as a customer. They don't want to write off the debt as a bad debt. And most times they will come into a repayment arrangement that is affordable. If, however, you are very, very over-indebted, the National Credit Act makes provision for debt counselling.
Yeah.
But that is a separate issue on its own.
Okay.
When you go into debt counselling, you must understand that you're going to be out of the credit market for at least 5 years. Previously, you would have been out of the credit market forever if you had a home loan.
Okay.
Because you have to pay that home loan down. But the Act has now been amended that you pay your unsecured debt, etc. You will get a certificate for you to get out of debt counselling, for you to get more credit. So approach your credit provider. If you feel that you're terribly over indebted, go to a debt counsellor and apply for debt counselling and go into a program where you can rehabilitate and you can get your dignity back and get back onto your feet, etc. But, you know, my experience is that the best and the first port of call, go to your credit provider, and they will listen to you.
And don't hide away from them, because we don't pick up these
That's one of
calls,
the
you
things.
don't open
You know, that's
the
one of
mail.
the things that is, because it's an issue of pride, it's an issue of embarrassment, it's, you know, you don't want people to know you in difficulty. Forget that. You know,
Forget that.
Rather
face your
face
demons.
Face it.
And
Face your demons.
People don't know that actually when you hide, there's a status that is loaded at the bureau.
That you hide?
Yeah,
My
and that
goodness.
is called consumer is not contactable.
Yes.
Wow.
So you not answering that private number is not helping you.
Yes.
Okay, wow. So I get masikumbali matyala o ndonto no private numbers, but the more uyibaleka, it's going to be written down, it will be on your record. Don't run away. We're coming back after this. We'll give you more tips on how you can better your life and your credit. Stay with us. Well, welcome back. You're still watching Yilungelo Lakho right here on SABC 1. Calls. They record that even. I think because we're equipping the consumer now, it's our last segment. Let's just give them tips on how they can better manage. Because I think at the end of the day, we need to let the consumer know that all of this is done for their own good. Let's start with you, Louise.
Look, firstly, on the issue of your credit bureau report, your credit bureau report is actually an asset. So how you manage your finances, you know, and how you repay your current credit providers has an impact on you buying a house or a car in future. You know, that is basically you acquiring an asset. So like the Ombud has said, if you're going to run into financial problems or distress, do not run away, because those codes are then loaded to say the consumer has absconded or the consumer is not contactable, which is basically negative. But my key message to consumers is, please, let's take credit that we actually first need and that we can afford. If I go in and apply for a personal loan, for example, and they say, congratulations, Ms. Etisani, I only applied for 5,000, you've qualified for 50, then I get so happy. Why am I taking 50,000 when I don't need it, when I only need 5?
Wow. Okay. So, Nikki, what are your closing remarks?
Closing remarks is go and check your credit profile, your credit report. You get one every year free of charge. You'll be amazed at what is there. Your whole history of your life is in there. How many jobs you had, where you moved, where you lived, etc. But the important thing of checking your credit profile is that you know what your standing is. If you are in good standing, it gives you negotiating power. If you're buying a car or a house, you negotiate better interest rates because you're a good credit risk. So you use that. Also, the converse is that if there are certain things on your profile that needs to be rectified, take time to rectify it. You know, in South Africa, we don't really worry about our credit scores. But in the US, your credit score is the biggest thing.
Wow.
Because people fight to increase their credit score.
All right. Well, I so wish we had enough time. Thank you so much to you for joining us as well. From Missy Pyoganza and the rest of the team, it's join us again next Friday and catch our repeats on Mondays at 12 p.m. Till then, God bless you and have a great weekend.
Yilungelo Lakho.